It's the regular season finale for high school football around the state of Illinois. I'm Ryan Fay with you here for Hoffman Estates Cable TV as our game of the week takes you to Palatine, Illinois, here at the home of the Vikings at Fremd High School as the unbeaten Vikings in Mid-Suburban League West Conference play welcome in the Hawks from Hoffman Estates High School. Now, it is a must-win tonight here for the Hoffman Estates Hawks traveling for this regular season finale. They come in with a record of 4-4 overall, 1-3 in conference play. They need to get that fifth win in order to have a shot at qualifying for the playoffs. It wouldn't be a guarantee, but it would definitely give them a shot at perhaps playing in postseason play. And because of their 4-4 record, that is due to a 28-0 loss that we had for you last week at Hoffman Estates at the hands of Barrington High School. And for the Broncos of Barrington in that one, who improved to 5-3 on the season, 3-1 in conference play, Quinn Kettle led the way, 3 rushing touchdowns in the first half alone, and that's what helped carry the Broncos to that 28-0 shutout victory on the road. And a big carry, though, for Hoffman Estates coming into action tonight is Jonah Walton. 7 catches, 87 yards in that shutout loss, so there's still plenty of weapons for quarterback JoJo Lovelace and the Hawks to still go with, along with their star sophomore receiver in Jay Sean Johnson. Now, on the side for the Vikings, as mentioned, they come in with a 5-3 record. They have clinched the conference title. First time they've done that since 2009. They had a big 20-12 victory over the Conant Cougars on the road in Week 8 action. And for them in particular, the big story in that 8-point victory was long drive execution. 10 of 77 resulting in a touchdown. 15 of 57 yards resulting in a touchdown. And they have a lot of big components on their defensive side of the ball, which we'll get along with and talk about more as we get along with our game tonight. So sit back and relax. We got great football coming your way for our regular season finale. It's the Hawks and the Vikings in our game of the week here on HETV. Kickoff is coming your way. And as we get set for kickoff between the Hawks and the Vikings, the Week 9 regular season finale set to take place. As we come to you from Palatine, Illinois, Ryan Fay with you here for Hoffman Estates Cable TV on our game of the week. You'll be seeing the Hoffman Estates Hawks in their road white uniforms, white jerseys, and the white shorts and the blue helmets with the orange Hawk on-set helmets. And for the Vikings of Fremd High School in their home, green jerseys, gold numbers, and pants, and the green helmets with the Viking white on the helmets. It'll be Jonah Walton to punt or kick this off as the Hawks won the coin toss. They deferred to the second half. So they'll get the ball then, and back deep for the Fremd Vikings, you'll have back there Nathan Patel and number 23, Connor McCarthy. Senior night here at Fremd High School, had the pregame festivities before kickoff tonight, as Walton will be set to kick this one off from his own 40 as we get everything set on the field, make sure everything's all good on the respective sidelines. As for the Vikings, it's all about playoff positioning, as they've already clinched a spot in the playoffs with the 6 wins, 6-2 overall. More so trying to just get a higher seed should they come out with a victory. And for Hoffman Estates, win and you may be in. 5 wins get you qualified for the playoffs, but not a guarantee to necessarily be in. But a win against Fremd on the road will certainly help in that department, especially for the playoff point side of things when it comes to selection time. Vikings will go left to right here to begin our contest. Hawks right to left, and off we go in Week 9 action. A little dribbler to the right side will be picked up by McCarthy just in front of his own 20. And he'll get a return of about 8 yards on that one. And that is where this Fremd offense will begin their first drive tonight. They've been led in the big receiving department. Jack Hipchen, second in receiving in the conference, 592 yards on 35 catches, averaging just under 17 per catch. In the game against Conant a week ago, had a block extra point on the defensive side of things, a touchdown catch, and a pick 6 defensively. As the Vikings begin with 1st and 10 on the 28, as Sachs, the quarterback, will give this one up the middle give that one to Brian Hardy, who we've talked about in some of our other games when we haven't had the opportunity to cover Fremd. As it was a Brian Hardy run there for about 5 yards. Hardy with 508 yards rushing on the ground this season, adding 5 more there. Hardy, the 5'10 senior running back. As we're just underway here in Palatine, Illinois. 2 receivers out to the far side. As Ryan Sachs, the quarterback, will go up to his lineman for a different play. 6 on the play clock. As Hardy now goes to the right hip. Sachs will hand this one off to Hardy again, who goes up the middle. And he gains about 3 on that one. Makes it 3rd and manageable coming up for the Vikings. And as per usual, we'll go around the state on this Friday night, get you some scores happening around the area as well. A lot of playoff implications happening around not just the MSL, but around the Chicagoland area tonight. Talked about at great length how impressive Rolling Meadows out in the East Division has been this season, having clinched a playoff spot a couple of weeks ago, actually, with their unbeaten mark so far. As that one trying to read the blitz, and the play will be automatically blown dead. That was Nate Fisher, the senior linebacker, trying to time the count, as that'll be a 5-yard penalty as the Hawks got greedy, and that'll give the Vikings a first set of downs as they get closer to midfield. Just underway, 91 seconds into our opening contest now and counting. A couple of Brian Hardy runs so far is our difference. So 1st and 10 with the ball now at the 42 for the Vikings. The 2 wide receivers to the near right side. Sachs has Hardy at the left hip. Man comes in motion. And we get a whistle, and the play will be automatically dead. Officials blow the whistle. And it looks like the 5 yards that Fremd was gifted from Hoffman Estates, they're going to essentially return it back as they'll be called for the false start. Looked like on that play there, that was Brian Clay, the junior offensive lineman that may have jumped a hair early before the snap. As now you see Connor McCarthy coming into the fold for Fremd. Play clock, however, down to 7, so they'll need to get up there rather quickly, and have to wonder if they may splurge a timeout, and Coach Lou Sponzo will. Seemed to be a little bit of miscommunication there from Fremd's side of things, so they'll call their first timeout. 2 remaining here in the half, while Hoffman still has all 3 of theirs. This is a Hoffman Estates team that got smacked in the mouth at home in their regular season finale for home games against Barrington last week, who 2 weeks ago saw these same Vikings, and Fremd handled it in dominant fashion, 14-0 back in week 7, and the Broncos had a nice response that we saw a week ago when we were at Hoffman Estates, when they had the 28-0 shutout road victory. Quinn Kettle was having quite the first half for the Broncos, having 3 rushing touchdowns in that first half that made the difference. And for Hoffman, really not able to get any offensive momentum for long periods of time in Week 8 action against Barrington. So coming off the timeout, 1st and 15. As on this one, coming in motion from left to right is only a gain, getting back to the original line of scrimmage to about the 42-yard line. As Andrew Sachs on the end around, as he gained those 5 yards back off the false start to make it 2nd and 10. Ball back now at the 42. Senior night here at Fremd High School in our regular season finale. All the members of the football team, cheerleaders, dance team, and band, along with their friends and family, honored before our kickoff here tonight. As Andrew Sachs comes in motion, Hardy with the carry. He finds a big hole up the middle, and there goes Hardy into Hawks territory. Just short of the 30, a new set of downs coming for Fremd. So Brian Hardy, who is a big play threat out of the running game for Fremd, with his first big rush there tonight, as they now get to the Hawks 31. A 31-yard run by Hardy on that one, as the ball is now at the 31. Sachs will keep this one himself on the option, and he gets maybe a yard or 2. Not much there for 2nd down. And for Sachs coming into today, he's not afraid to run the ball as well. That was his 131st carry on the year, having 529 rushing yards coming into this regular season finale, a little over 4 yards a carry. Also, just like JoJo Lovelace of Hoffman Estates in the 1,000-yard passing club. It's only a gain of 1 there from the 5'11 junior quarterback. With his brother Andrew in motion, Hardy gets the handoff again, and the Hawks defense swarms there for minimal gain, and that brings up 3rd down. As a slew of Hawks stop the run there by Hardy, as Nick Johnson, one of the senior linebackers of this Hawks defense, had the initial hit on Hardy, wearing number 34 in green. So 3rd down and 8 as snap is blown dead again. We've seen this a couple of times, and it looks like this is going to be encroachment against Hoffman Estates, and it is. So that'll be 5 yards once again gifted for Fremd. It'll make it a much more manageable 3rd down conversion coming up, as we now have just under 7 minutes to go here in our opening quarter. Still no score. Play clock down to 10. 2 wide receivers lined up to the near right, 1 out to the far left. Play clock down to 2. Sachs gets it off. We'll leave it for Hardy. Finds a hole up the middle for a 1st down into red zone territory. And he stumbles forward close to the 10-yard line. Gain of 9 on the run. As now the Vikings looking to work a little quickly here. No huddle. Ball at the 12, and now Ryan Sachs will settle it down a little bit. Same formation again. As on this 1st down, Ryan Sachs will keep it, will look to get the edge, and he spins out of bounds for about a 3-yard gain. They'll bring it 2nd and about 7. Talked about this in our open that Fremd has really been able to deliver on long drives. We mentioned in our open the drives that resulted in touchdowns in that 8-point win over Conant. Drives of at least 10 plays or more, 10 plays for 77 yards and a score, and 15 plays for 57 yards and an eventual score. As they were trailing in that 2nd half to Conant, as Sachs will keep this on the option up the middle. He will go forward for a Vikings touchdown. We mentioned he can run, as that's his 2nd option as the quarterback. As he gets the Vikings here on the board first with the extra point coming up. Connor Cox, the sophomore kicker, to try to make this a 7-0 score. As here's the snap, hold, and kick, and it is up, and it is good. So a 9-yard touchdown run from the quarterback, Ryan Sachs, has our difference so far, 7-0 to the home Vikings, with just over 5 minutes to go in our opening quarter. Some other action happening in the Mid-Suburban League over in the East Division. Hersey at home leading Rolling Meadows 14-0. Battle of top teams in the East Division over there. And we'll keep an eye on some other scores as we go along here that come available to us. Other action happening in the West Division. Schaumburg is on the road taking on Barrington, who we saw a week ago. Conant is on the road taking on Palatine, not that far from here. Also around the area, Stevenson on the road, taking on Lake Forest. And another score that we can update you on out in the western suburbs, as out at Mateo Valley, they trail at home to Neuqua Valley by the score of 7-0. That one's still in the 1st quarter. So Joey Ratine will kick this one away from his own 40. You have Makai Williams back deep along with Jay Johnson. So it'll be the Hawks now to try to respond down by 7. They're led by their senior quarterback, JoJo Lovelace, who couldn't really get a lot of momentum in the loss to Barrington a week ago. As Johnson will get this return, finds a nice hole ahead of the 35 and down the sidelines past midfield. He's going to try to outrace him in the last chance, courtesy of Connor McCarthy, able to bring him down as an excellent return by Jay Johnson, the sophomore, will have this drive start in Vikings territory at the Fremd 30. So statement made by the 5'10 sophomore Jay Johnson, who along with Jonah Walton can play as a big threat in the receiving game for Lovelace. And for Lovelace, just under 1,800 yards on the season with 13 touchdowns in the air thrown. Although I think a penalty is going to bring this one back, and it is. I think that there was a block in the back called, and the flag now will be put back to the head official. So unfortunate for Hoffman Estates' perspective, as that is going to be a holding on Hoffman Estates as they make it official now. So it'll be back towards where the holding had occurred, and that's going to take him back to the opposite end of the 30 of the field, back in Hoffman Estates territory. So a near 40-yard difference because of that penalty based on where the original return had ended from Johnson. So a break there for Fremd, as this Hawks drive will now start on their own 29. And Mekhi Williams, he tripped, and he lost about a yard on the play. Mekhi Williams perhaps trying to get to the 1,000-yard rushing mark this season. He came in with 905, averaging just over 5 yards a carry this season. Williams, the 5'9 junior, will be back for one more season. The wide receiver set wide to the right as Lovelace on the fake will throw to his right. That's Damian Pekarczyk, but for minimal gain on the far side of the field, and it'll bring up third down. Trey Costella on the tackle. A lot of defensive juggernaut players to keep in mind here for Fremd, he being one of them, along with Will Christo, Jack Walsh on the line. Can't also forget about the junior Jason Haas. As on 3rd and 10, Lovelace is going to try to spin out of it, gets around a couple linemen, and down he goes. As he tried to create something out of nothing, but to no avail. And we just mentioned it, Will Christo able to bring him down for no gain. And the junior linebacker, Christo, will force the Hawks to punt on their opening drive. So Walton will punt this one away. And you got Ryan Palmer back deep to receive this for the Vikings. 5'9 senior waits at his own 36. As Walton gets a low punt off, takes a Hawks bounce, and Palmer's just going to let this one roll. And it'll go to the 24-yard line of Fremd, and that's where they'll begin drive number 2 of the evening. First drive successful, a 9-yard touchdown run from the quarterback Ryan Sachs. As we have just over 3 minutes to go here in our opening quarter of action, week 9 of the regular season finale. The playoff selection will be announced on Sunday, and the postseason journey begins next week. Mentioned for Fremd's sake, they've already clinched 6-2 overall. A win here would help bolster their seeding. As Hardy will get the handoff and look to get outside the numbers. And he does for a nice first down run ahead of the 30. And it'll bring up second down. It was Max Locke and Nate Fisher out there to put Hardy out of bounds. After the 7-yard gain, 2nd and 3. Or rather 2nd and 2, I should say. So they'll mark it officially as an 8-yard run by Hardy. As with receivers to the right, Sachs is going to roll that way. He's going to air it down the field. Incomplete. He wanted Jack Hipchen, who has seen his first target of the evening. Mentioned him at Great length in our open here. Just under 600 receiving yards on the season at 592. Also see him on the defensive side of things as well. We talked about that blocked extra point he had in that 8-point win at Conant last week. He's on 3rd and 2. Hawks wanted to show a blitz, but if you recall in that last drive, they tried to jump on a blitz, and it cost them 5 yards, and Fremd got a first down out of it. As they look to show it again, they blitz, and it's going to be a run to Hardy, who will find his way through the middle for a Vikings first down. He needed 2 and got 3 as the chains will now move and a fresh set of downs for the Vikings. Two wide receivers set right. As Hardy now will move to the right hip of Ryan Sachs. And the quick toss to the right is going to go to Hardy. Looks for a block to the outside, gets ahead of the 40, and it will be spun out over there. And that'll be second down. Was Fisher able to get to Hardy again with assistance from Julian White. Be a gain of 7-yard carry. So another good first down run by Fremd. As I mentioned, they've been able, they're a little similar to their opponent who they saw a week ago in Conant. Long drives and able to really drain out the clock as Hardy now is off to the sidelines for the moment. Appear to be checking out his right side. Could be an equipment issue. We'll have to keep an eye on that. As on 2nd and 3 with just over 2 minutes to go, Palmer's going to get the handoff now. And Palmer gets ahead to the 46, and that should be enough for a first down, and it will be. And Hardy only misses one play as he goes right back out there in place of Palmer, who just got the first down. Looks like that was just an equipment issue for Hardy. Two wide receivers to the near right side, one out to the far left. Hip check at the bottom of your screen. As with this new set of downs at the 46, Sachs will keep it himself, and he kind of looked for an option to his right that he didn't see there, and he falls forward for about a yard. That makes it second down. So as the huddle breaks, you've got Hipchen out to the right, and McCarthy lined up as a receiver to the left side, and along with the brother of Ryan, Andrew Sachs, who now is going to come in motion. And the brother handoff happens there as Andrew goes up the middle ahead of up the right side, I should say, and a flag comes out late after Sachs got taken down at the Hoffman Estates 48. Have to see what the penalty's going to be. Box stop for just a shade over 47 seconds, and it's going to be a face mask on Hoffman Estates. So a mistake there by Hoffman Estates, as once again penalties have gifted fresh downs for Fremd here. I believe that's the third time we've seen that, as the clock now will continue to wind with 40 seconds to play. Into Hawks territory, the Vikings go with the ball now at the 43. Perhaps the final play of the quarter forthcoming. Play clock down to 5. As Andrew comes in motion, gets the handoff from his brother Ryan, and he bobbles it as a flag comes out. I don't think that was meant to happen. A little bit of a wardrobe miscue there by the official on the far side of the field. No flag, second down, as Andrew Sachs was able to fall right on top of it at the line of scrimmage. And that is going to do it for our first quarter of play. So our difference so far is a 9-yard touchdown run from the junior quarterback Ryan Sachs, as we go to quarter number 2 with the Vikings up 7-0. Let's get you an update on some scores happening around the area since we have a moment. Glenbard West on the road at Oak Park River Forest having a 7-0 lead. That one's still in the first quarter over there. Out in Carroll Stream, the Panthers of Glenbard North hosting Geneva. Panthers have a 6-0 lead over the Geneva Vikings. That one also in the first quarter. St. Viator at home hosting Carmel. Carmel with a 7-0 lead on the road in the first half. Over at Lyle hosting Streeter, it's already convincing for Lyle is at home. They already have a 28-0 lead in the first quarter over Streeter. Wheaton Academy hosting Aurora Christian, 7-0. That one's still in the first quarter of play. And out at Leiden hosting Hinsdale South in the Hornets. Leiden Eagles with a 7-0 deficit that they face at home, as that one's just about to begin the second quarter of play. So they'll switch sides of the field now as we're getting set for second quarter action. Vikings will be going right to left on your screen, and the Hawks will go left to right. Again, Vikings in their home green and gold, while the Hawks in their road white and blue helmets. So as we get set now for the second quarter, it was a loss of 1 on that little miscue there by Andrew Sachs. As he now comes in motion, and brother Ryan at QB falls forward on the option and has no gain for third down. Looks like bringing him down there was the senior linebacker Nick Johnson. We mentioned his name earlier on a couple of tackles. So the first third down and long that Fremd is facing here tonight. We'll see how they try to respond. We've talked about Jack Hipchen in our open. Only seen him have 1 target through the air. And has been all the running games so far for Fremd. And the only thing for Hoffman Estates' offense has been a 3-and-out. As on 3rd and 11, Ryan Sachs facing the pressure, and down he goes in his own territory. Reading that one well for Hoffman Estates, Elijah Figueroa, the junior lineman, will force the Vikings on a 4th and a zip code to go, as the punting unit will have to come out for Fremd. A stance that the Hawks defense needed, they get, as the Vikings will punt. Ja'Shawn Johnson will be set to return this perhaps inside his own 20-yard line, as that was a loss of 10 on the sack by Elijah Figueroa. As another decent punt is going to, I believe that hit a Viking player, but the Vikings at one area had it spotted at the 1, but I think because it hit a Viking player, they're going to move it up to the 25, I believe. Good effort, though, on the Viking special teams and to try to pin the Hawks, or what are they going to review? Officials are going to talk about it. Right now, the ball's spotted at basically the half-yard line. So we'll have to see how this is going to be reviewed by the officials. It looked like, from my vantage point, it looked like it did hit a Viking because you saw the ball take a weird turn with its direction and quickness, as it looked like it hit off the foot of a Viking. And it looks like that is what's going to take place. So good call by the side judge to have this one be spotted at the 25. He was right there on it, and the correct call has been made. So the Hawks will benefit from that, a 24-yard bonus because of that accidental touching by the Viking special teams with the ball. As this Hawks second drive begins with a Makai Williams run to the left side, short of the 30. And that'll bring up second down. Hoffman Estates, they haven't put up anything on the scoreboard the last 2 weeks. You have to go back to when we saw them at when they hosted Schaumburg in week 6, when it was a 5-point victory, 21-16, as on second down, the throw to Ja'Shawn Johnson, his first catch, results with essentially nothing to bring up third down. So no gain, 3rd and 5. Need to get to the 35 to convert. As the Hawks' first drive resulted in a 3-and-out, they would prefer to not have it result in the same way as their first. As Lovelace wanted to throw, is going to run, but he is met after a gain of a few. It'll bring up 4th down. There's a good credit there on the Fremd line to make the stop. I believe that was Jake Morrell, number 54, that got the initial hit on Lovelace. And Walton will come out to punt, so back-to-back 3-and-outs for the Hawks as Palmer is back deep for the Vikings yet again as he'll stand at his own 37. Good punt by Walton as Palmer will receive this at his own 32. And Palmer to the far side gets about an 11-yard return out of it. And that's where the Vikings will take over. Tackle made by Liam Love. So the last drive for Fremd, halted by a 10-yard sack by Elijah Figueroa. As the Vikings, as you see, with a 7-0 lead here with just over 8.5 to play in our first half. A 9-yard touchdown run from quarterback Ryan Sachs is our difference so far. That came back in the first quarter on the opening drive for the Vikings. Two wide receivers set to the near left, one out to the far right. As Ryan Sachs will hand this one off to Ryan Palmer. And he gets back to the line of scrimmage for no gain. Brian Hardy right now on the sidelines as Palmer's going to get a few snaps at the running back spot. Greg Harmon now will come in as a receiver, number 12. As he replaces Tafara Okamore, the senior. Under 8 to play here in our second quarter. Play clock now down to 2. As the snap is off, Ryan Sachs to his left, throwing across his body, and a good throw and a good catch made. Jack Hipchen with his first catch of the night into Hoffman Estates territory. Gain of 9, it'll be 3rd and 1. Jay Sean Johnson in coverage defensively, also plays as a defensive back for Hoffman Estates, kind of the all-around player for that team. We'll see him in the kick return game, along with punt returns, and as one of the star wideouts for their offense next to Jonah Walton. He's on this 3rd and short. Hawks try to blitz again. Hardy's going to get the hand, or rather, I should say Sachs will keep it. Even I got fooled on that one. Either way, first down Fremd as they get deeper into Hawks territory inside to the 42-yard line. So another fresh set of downs for Fremd. As we now have under 7.5 and counting to go here in the first half. Okamore in motion from right to left, number 85 in green. As Hardy is going to get the handoff this time. He finds a hole on the right side, and he explodes ahead of the 30-yard line. Got into like a 4th gear. And I believe he is ahead of the 30 for another Vikings first down, and he is. Ryan Palmer now will come back out into the field, and he'll replace Okamore. Oh no, Palmer will stay out there. Actually, they have not moved the ball, and it looks like a flag on the far side of the field, so we didn't see it. And it's going to be illegal use of hands on Fremd. Didn't see the flag thrown on the far side of the field, but either way, that's a 5-yard penalty that is going to negate that run by Hardy. So it'll be first down and 15. And now a timeout's been called. So now the Hawks will want to talk things over. That's their first timeout used tonight. Now each team with 2 timeouts remaining here with 6:52 to go. And since we have another moment, we'll see if we can get some more updated scores around the area on this Week 9 Glenbard North now up 12-0, hosting Geneva out in the DuPage Valley Conference. Still no score in the second quarter as Wheaton Warrenville South is hosting St. Charles North in their regular season finale. Lyle continues to pour it on against Streeter, 34-0, and that one is still in the first quarter of play. You have to think a running clock may become effective in that one out in Lyle. At the half, Elk Grove, the Grenadiers, with a rather surprising 10-6 lead. The program kind of in a rebuild mode over the last couple of seasons. We saw them in our opener when they took on Conan, and Conan handled them in rather convincing fashion as they have the 10-6 lead on the road at Buffalo Grove. At the half, Prospect is going to have the running clock in the second half as on the road they have a 43-0 lead over at Wheeling. So as we come back off the Hawks timeout, ball at the far hash with 3 wide receivers set to the left now for Ryan Sachs and the Fremd Vikings. Sachs will step up to his left. He's going to throw it downfield for Palmer. He's got it. What a catch inside red zone territory. First down, Vikings. Jay-Sean Johnson in coverage. Great throw, better catch by the senior Ryan Palmer. A 30-yard completion to the 17. The wide receiver set now to the far right. Hardy at the left hip of Ryan Sachs, who's going to throw to the right. Pass is caught to his brother Andrew Sachs as he gets inside the 15 to about the 12.
Sachs to the 11-yard line.
So that'll be a 6-yard completion, or rather 5 yards, excuse me, if I can do my math right.
2nd and 4.
Second and manageable regardless here for the Vikings in red zone territory. They benefited with a rushing touchdown last time they were in this territory. As Sachs quickly to his left, the pass is caught to his brother Andrew inside the 5. Did he get over the goal? And he did. Touchdown, Vikings. Brother to brother, Ryan to Andrew Sachs, and it's 13-0 Vikings. As that second effort from Andrew Sachs reached over the goal line. And with this extra point that's through the middle and good, courtesy of Connor Cox. It is now a 14-0 Vikings lead here at home. And you go back to when these two teams scored off in 2018, it was a convincing win for Fremd, 31-9 on the road. As we talked about with Hoffman Estates, they need the win in order to have a chance to be playoff eligible. Again, even if they win, that doesn't guarantee a spot in the playoffs next week. But should they win and be able to advance to the playoffs, it would keep their playoff streak of 3 consecutive years intact. As we go into the second quarter of play, the Hawks have now gone scoreless in 10 consecutive quarters, 11 if the final 5:41 does not see a Hawks score. As the offensive drought has continued over the last couple of weeks here to Palatine, Illinois for the Hawks. So Makai Williams and Jay-Sean Johnson are back deep. Joey Ratine will boot this one away. A bit of a shorter kick that Johnson will pick up at his own 18-yard line. Tries to get ahead of steam out of it, and he gets ahead of the 35, and that's all he'll get out of it. Recall that last kickoff return he had put him all the way to the Fremd 30, but a holding call against Hoffman Estates put him way back at their own 30 instead. So he'll get the forward progress at the Hawks' 38-yard line, and that's where JoJo Lovelace will begin this drive, the senior quarterback for Hoffman Estates. Just over 5.5 to play here in our first half. Time of possession has heavily favored the Vikings as Lovelace, well protected, will go to his right. Looks downfield. He tries to check it off to Pekarchik, but it's picked off and intercepted. Trey Costella with the INT, and the Vikings take over at the Hoffman Estates 27-yard line. Great read by Costella. The intended target, Damian Pekarchik. And credit to Costella for reading that rollout and being able to jump the throw and create the turnover. The 6-foot junior linebacker getting the job done, putting the offense right back out there for Fremd, up by a couple of scores. 3 wide receivers set to the near left side as Ryan Sachs over the middle, and that one almost intercepted, almost back-to-back picks. Nate Fisher had it in his hands for a moment, but was not able to corral it in at the end. It'll bring up second down. Almost near back-to-back plays with interceptions. As Ryan Sachs can breathe a sigh of relief there, with 2 wide receivers setting out at each side. Hardy at the right hip, as Hardy will get the handoff and will go to the left, but he doesn't get much out of it. As Julian White, along with Bello Bazaz, helping him bring him down. Rather, I should say Nick Johnson was the second Hawk to get him defensively. Gain of only 1 on that play there by Hardy makes it 3rd down and 9. With 3 wide receivers setting out to the right. Hardy at the left hip. And on the near side, it's Connor McCarthy as the receiver. On 3rd down, Ryan Sachs will roll to his right, finds a wide open Hipchen. He spins out of a tackle, gets around a second defender, stays alive, gets inside the 5. He gets in for a touchdown. Incredible. Jack Hipchen with a hip check to the Hoffman defense. That may be one of our plays of the year that we've seen, and it comes in our regular season finale, courtesy of the senior Jack Hipchen. As he's now well over into the 600-yard receiving category, as the extra point is up, and it is good. What a run and finish for a touchdown. The 2nd, 3rd, and even 4th efforts from the 5'11 senior wide receiver Jack Hipchen on the 26-yard completion, which only looked like could have been about maybe 7 or 8 yards at first. Instead, turns it into a 21-0 lead as the Vikings are rolling with 4:35 to play here in our first half. To get some scores as we have a second. Willowbrook at home hosting Proviso East as they've got a 7-0 lead in the first half. Underway at Batavia, the Bulldogs hosting the Wheaton North Falcons as that one is still scoreless as they get set for the second quarter. Glenbard North adding on to that lead over Geneva as it's now 19-0 Panthers over in Carroll Stream. St. Francis over in Wheaton hosting Aurora Central Catholic as the Spartans of St. Francis have a 20-0 lead at home out in Wheaton, Illinois. And it's scoreless between Montini and Providence Catholic. Over in Lombard, Montini hosting, and that one's still scoreless in the first half. Once again, more work to be done for Hoffman Estates. They had no answer for Quinn Kettle against Barrington, and they haven't found one against Jack Hipchen after the breakaway run that he had for the touchdown. As this return by Makai Williams gets ahead of the 25-yard line to the 26. Mentioned this offense for Hoffman Estates scoreless in now 10 consecutive quarters. As this was an offense that had 40 points in their opener against Elk Grove. Even in the loss to Prospect had 27. 34 over at Vernon Hills, and then 21 in the last victory that they had when they hosted Schaumburg back in week 6. As on 1st down, It'll be Mekhi Williams to the right side. Gets away from one tackler. And he gets ahead of the 30-yard line to the 32. As Routine makes the tackle for Fremd. So just over 4 minutes to go. Nice gain there on that run from Mekhi Williams. Just trying to spark this Hawks offense in any way, shape, or form. 3 wide receivers out to the far left as Lovelace to his right. Pass is caught. That's Jonah Walton ahead of the 45. And the first down of the night for Hoffman Estates. Talk about Walton and Jay-Sean Johnson as the big receiving targets. Mentioned Walton in the loss last week. Still had 7 catches for 87 yards. Still having a productive night was Jonah Walton, who also handles the punting duties. .345 to play. The ball near midfield for Hoffman Estates. As mentioned, their first down off a drive. Lovelace on the fake. Scrambling, and it just has to throw it away. And the Fremd sideline is there's a flag that comes out after the play, and I believe that's going to be intentional grounding, as the Hawks aren't pleased by the call. Some of the linemen with their hands on their hips in confusion. As it is going to back up the Hawks. They do call intentional grounding on Lovelace, and that will be a loss of down on top of it. So this will back them up now to their own 31. So they lose the down on top of it. So it brings up 2nd down. And I believe that is 2nd and 26 if my math is correct. Either way, Lovelace, with a long way to go, will find Walton ahead of the 40. A decent return of some yardage there after the intentional grounding, as he gains 11 on that throw and catch. Still a long way to go, 3rd down and 16. As penalties, unenforced penalties, rather, that have been the story for Hoffman Estates here tonight. Now showing on both sides of the ball. 2 receivers to each side as we now have 3 minutes to go in the half. Lovelace over the middle. That one may have been tipped. He was looking for Jay-Sean Johnson. It falls incomplete. As you had Jack Hipchen, we talked about him playing as a defender, was the one in coverage for Fremd. And that brings up a 4th down, and Walton will stay out there to punt while the rest of the special teams unit will come on out to the field. Ryan Palmer will be back deep once again for Fremd. So after gaining a 1st down on this drive, an intentional grounding penalty by Joe Lovelace sets the Hoffman Estates offense after getting a step forward, 2 steps back. Palmer calling for the fair catch is just going to instead let this one go, and it'll bounce in favor of Hoffman Estates to the Fremd 22-yard line.
The ball is down at the 22-yard line of the Vikings. 1st and 10 for Fremd.
So 1st and 10 coming up for the Vikings, who already lead by 3 touchdowns. The score update is Glenbard West on the road at Oak Park River Forest has a 14-0 lead. That one now in the 2nd quarter of play. And at halftime, St. Viator and Carmel are now tied over in Arlington Heights, not that far from here. And they're tied at St. Viator at 14 apiece. So as this Vikings drive begins, 3 wide receivers out to the left. As Ryan Sachs is going to run it himself, finds a hole at the middle. And he gets down just short of the 30 to the 29. Off the gain of 7 yards on the run. Mentioned for Sachs, he came in with leading the team in rushing with 528 yards rushing, averaging just over 4 yards a carry as the quarterback. Hardy led the way in that department, though, with averaging just over 5. And we've seen a couple of big runs from Hardy here that came back in the 1st quarter, as Hipchen, who we saw make the big dance moves to get around for a touchdown, he was still hard to bring down. They take him out of bounds. Enough for a 1st down and much more, as the completion of 11 will bring the chains forward for Fremd. Just over 2 minutes to go. Both teams still with 2 timeouts. As head coach Lou Sponzel has this Fremd team going in the right direction as they try to get set for the playoffs next week. Throw over the middle is dropped. That was Greg Harmon, the junior wide receiver, who was the intended target. You had Devin Lawrence, the junior defensive back for Hoffman Estates, in coverage. So with 3 wide receivers to the right, Ryan Sachs will survey his options. He just tries to run it himself, spins away from a tackler, and he falls forward for a positive gain of a couple to bring up 3rd down. So again, he turns something out of nothing, as even when Hoffman Estates defense was able to keep the offensive weapons in check down the field, Sachs is still able to find a way to get positive yardage out of it. 3rd down and 8. They'll need to get to the midfield mark at the 52 convert. Play clock now down to 15. A rather fast first half here in Palatine, Illinois. As a 3 wide receiver set out to the right, Ryan Sachs throws to his right. He kind of had that overthrown him behind Hipchen, and it falls incomplete for 4th down. Started a couple minutes after the projected 7:30 kickoff. The senior day festivities taking a little long, as per usual for any sport and high school activities. So Hipchen will be the one to punt this away. Jay Sean Johnson back to return as he stands inside his own 25. Hipchen at the left hash. As Hipchen gets a good boot on this one, and it will take a sideways bounce, and it'll be touched right at about the Hoffman Estates 25.5-yard line, we'll say. So they'll put him at the 26 with just over a minute to go. And this is our Week 9 regular season finale here on HGTV's Game of the Week here at Fremd High School. Ryan Fay with you on the call. And Fremd 6-2 on the year, unbeaten in conference play at 4-0. As for Fremd, they're only couple of losses that they have faced came in non-conference play, as Lovelace on 1st down trying to find somewhere to go with it. He's going to try to find Walton, who makes the catch inbounds. He gets the 1 foot and a 1st down for Hoffman Estates to the 48. Completion of 22 on the connection.
At the 48-yard line, 1st down for the Hawks.
And we've seen Hoffman Estates, even going back to when we saw them last week at Barrington, able to get some good plays, but just not able to sustain long drives that we've seen Fremd benefit from. And looks like we have a timeout and an injured Hawk on the far side of the field. Didn't see who it was. So an official's timeout with just over 58 seconds to play here in the half. And 21-0 our score. We'll reset how it's gotten there. Ryan Sachs back in the 1st quarter with a 9-yard touchdown run, as that put us at a 7-0 Fremd lead. And then into the 2nd quarter, the Sachs brothers, Ryan to Andrew for a 12-yard completion, which made it 14-0. And then Jack Hipchen with perhaps one of the plays of the year, missing 4 or 5, maybe even 6 tacklers for a 26-yard completion after receiving it maybe 8 yards ahead of the line of scrimmage. And that's how we are at our 21-0 Vikings lead here in Week 9. There's a 5-game winning streak that the Vikings are on. Their last loss came when they hosted Maine South in a battle of the crossover CSL Central Suburban League versus the MSL in the Mid-Suburban League. And Hawks came in here and got the 35-21 victory. Maine South, they're also 6-2 on the year. They host New Trier tonight, and whoever wins that one will outright win the CSL South. As the injured Hawk down there is Jonah Walton. That is a Not a good sight there if you're Hoffman Estates. One of your main utility guys that you use in the special teams game, especially punting, and your big wide receiver that is being assisted to off on the sideline. Let's keep an eye on that once we get in towards the second half. As we continue on, Lovelace will roll to his left immediately, and he fakes the throw, hops over, looked like his own lineman, gets a first down ahead of the 50, or I should say gets ahead of the line of scrimmage to the 50. It'll make it second down, and looks like Hoffman Estates called another timeout. And they did. So only a gain of a couple on that one. That'll bring the ball to the 50. So that is the second timeout used by Hoffman Estates. They'll have one remaining. Over at Hinsdale Central, they lead Lyons Township 7-0. That one's still in the first half. Mentioned in Mid-Suburban League East Division action, Hersey at home leads Rolling Meadows 21-14. And credit to the Mustangs of Rolling Meadows having to put together a very nice 2019 season. And correction what I said earlier, Maine South is actually at New Trier in Week 9 action in the CSL South. An update that we gave you earlier in Carroll Stream, Glenbard North now leads 25-0 over Geneva. And East St. Louis, who made the trip up to Naperville Central and has the 28-14 lead on the road over in Naperville. And Immaculate Conception Catholic Prep on the road at Riverside Brookfield has a 7-0 lead. That one also in the first half. 2nd and 8 off the 2-yard run from Lovelace. As with the receiver stacked to the far side, Lovelace will quickly toss to the left side for Mackay Williams, who gets a little deeper into Vikings territory out of bounds. Clock stopped at just over 41 seconds. It'll bring up third down and manageable.
Receives that pass on the left side, goes out of bounds after about a 2-yard gain, 3rd and 5.
So about 3 yards on the completion. They'll need to get to the Fremd 42-yard line to convert, with the ball at the 47. 2 wide receivers each side again. Williams now to the left tip of Lovelace as Lovelace over the middle. Pass is caught by Jay-Sean Johnson. Spins away from a tackler into red zone territory as the Hawks now are looking to cook on offense. Brought out of bounds by Chris Scaria, the junior defensive back who was in coverage. As now the Hawks look to end that scoreless drought of 10 scoreless quarters that date back to week 7. So a completion there of 31 to Jay-Sean Johnson. The ball now at the 16. First time Hawks working in Fremd red zone territory. As with 2 receivers to each side, Lovelace is going to run it himself up the middle. And he gets forward for about a 3 to 4 yard gain, and with 25 seconds left, the Hawks will call their final timeout.
4-yard gain, maybe 5, 2nd and 5.
And Tim Heisey will call his final timeout, the head coach of the Hawks of Hoffman Estates. As we stand at a 21-0 score for the host Vikings here in Week 9 action on this Friday night to conclude the regular season before playoffs begin next week. Over at Waubonsie Valley, it's a tight one already between them and Naperville North as they go to the half. Waubonsie Valley has a 22-21 lead at home against Naperville North. It's really a blowout at Lyle. As with them hosting Streeter, they have a 55-7 lead in the second quarter. One might smell triple digits at the rate that it's going at, but they'd still have a long ways to go. Barrington at home hosting Schaumburg has a 14-7 lead, and if they win that one, they become an automatic playoff clincher as this pass over the middle on second down is tipped and incomplete. Mackay Williams had it on his fingertips, and so did one of the Vikings backs back in the end zone. That was Will Christo, number 32, who kind of patted on his own shoulder saying, "My bad." As now it makes it 3rd down. So Lovelace will come back from the sidelines as he gets the play call. 20 seconds here to go in the half as the band gets set for their halftime performance. Mackay now to the left hip on this third down. Lovelace over the middle, overthrown and incomplete. He wanted Nate Fisher in the end zone as Ryan Palmer was in coverage. It'll bring up fourth down, and we'll see what Tim Heisey wants to do here. They get the ball, that being Hoffman Estates, to start the second half. They won the coin toss and deferred. So if they are able to get a score here and end that drought, and they get the ball to start the second half, this will really benefit Hoffman Estates to really get back into this down by 3 touchdowns. Offense stays out there with 17 seconds. Lovelace pump fakes, end zone, jump ball incomplete. He wanted Jay Sean Johnson, but to no avail, and it's a turnover on downs with 12 seconds to go. Once again, that was Will Christo back there, as he almost had that tip interception on the last play. And you had also back there Jason Haas, number 6, in the area. So first down for the Vikings at the 12, and let's imagine they may just take the knee and go to the half up by 3 scores, as they don't need to try to move the ball up by 3 touchdowns. As mentioned, Hoffman Estates will get the ball to start the second half, and that knee will take us to halftime. So a Ryan Sachs 9-yard touchdown back in the first quarter made it 7-0. Then Ryan to his brother Andrew for a 12-yard connection made it 14-0. And Jack Hipchen with a 26-yard touchdown reception puts us at a 21-0 lead as we go to halftime. Hawks will have work to do to try to become playoff eligible, while the Vikings try to solidify a seed in the IHSA playoffs. 21-0 at the half. We'll take our halftime break and get set for second half action in a little bit here on our HGTV Game of the Week. We'll be right back. As we get set now for second half action here at Fremd High School, Vikings have a 21-0 lead. Rushing touchdown from Ryan Sachs in the first, and a throw on to his brother Andrew to make it 14-0, and then throw to Jack Hipchen with the 26-yard connection to make it 21-0. As the Hawks, who won the toss, deferred to have the ball here to start the second half, will go out to receive this. They're in their road whites with the blue helmets. They'll be going right to left here for the third quarter. And the Vikings huddled up right before kickoff here of our second half. They're in their home green jerseys with the gold pants numbers and the white outline along the numbers, and they have the green helmets with the white Viking logo. As they'll be going left to right to kick this one away to begin our third quarter of play. Jam-packed crowd here on the home side of Fremd. A few of the Hoffman Estates folks making the trip out as well at the far bleachers on the far side of the field. As Jay Sean Johnson and Mackay Williams are back deep. Jerry Ratine will kick this one off at the 40 to get us started for our second half of action, as the Hoffman Estates Hawks are in must-win territory to try to qualify for a chance at the playoffs. As the return ahead of the 10-yard line, Mackay Williams gets stopped at the 31, as it was Joey Ratine, the kicker, that made the stop. As the Hawks will begin the second half at their own 31-yard line. Seen a couple of tip passes. One of them almost was a near interception for the Vikings, especially on a third down that the Hawks had in Fremd red zone territory that were unable to convert, as they went for it on fourth and had it turned over on downs. So the Hawks now will take over on their own 31 as they begin the second half drive with Lovelace to Mackay Williams. And he is stopped for no gain and may have lost about 3 on top of it. So a stop there by a slew of Vikings. Matthew Brody on the stop.
Second and 14.
So Matt Rody, the senior lineman, gets the 4-yard tackle for loss. It puts it at second and 14. Shotgun with 2 wide receivers set for Lovelace, as Mackay now to the right hip of Lovelace. As Lovelace going to air it out for Jay Sean Johnson. It is incomplete. Had a leap for it, tried to keep 1 foot in out of bounds, was unable to come down with the ball. I'm going to bring up 3rd and long. Lovelace trying to be a little aggressive here on this opening drive for the second half. So 3rd and 14. We played only 50 seconds of our 3rd quarter of action. Same set formation again here for Lovelace and the Hawks as Lovelace over the middle. That one tipped again as the intended target was Nate Fisher. It'll fall incomplete. And it'll be a 4th and 14. And the offense staying out there. Although it looks like as now Fisher gets set as a receiver, the offense will indeed stay out there. Again, down 3 scores. It's a must-win scenario for Hoffman Estates. As now Lovelace is going to perhaps go back to punt this, and he will. It's a little trick formation to a degree as Palmer bobbles it at the 41. Ball's alive, and the Vikings recover. Joey Ratine saving the day. As Palmer was going down to a knee to make the catch off the punt. Didn't call for a fair catch as he muffed it, and the Vikings will take over on their own 40. Didn't see Jonah Walton on that drive. Mentioned how he got injured in the final minute of the 2nd quarter. I have to hope he is able to make it out there. One of the premier players for this Hawks program as a quick throw to the right side for Ryan Palmer is caught ahead of the 50 for another Fremd first down in the Hoffman Estates territory at the 48. Darian waits on the tackle. The Vikings get the first down. Completion of about 13. Three receivers to the near right side, one out to the far left. As Ryan Sachs, the quarterback, it's the call from the sideline. Head coach Lou Sponzel looking for the 6th win in a row to end the 2019 regular season. As Palmer comes in motion, he's going to get the handoff. He gets ahead of the 45 to the 40, gets the first down to the Hawks' 35-yard line, a 12-yard completion after starting going a little west to east from our direction here at the game. Then he goes north-south and gets another Fremd first down.
First and 10 from the Hawks 35.
We now approach 10 minutes to go in the 3rd. Fremd continuing to forge on, trying to go to 7-2 to finish the regular season and an unbeaten 5-0 conference record. As the Hawks show blitz, it's picked up, pass is caught. It's Andrew Sachs for a first down into red zone territory. Andrew Sachs, touchdown Vikings. The brother connection works again, 27-0. 35 yards on the catch and run. As the point after now will come on up, the sophomore, Connor Cox will attempt the point after. He's 3 for 3 so far tonight. As the Vikings have been rolling here in week 9. The extra point up, and it is good. 28-0, Vikings lead. Same score that Hoffman Estates lost to at home last week against Barrington, and we were at that game last Friday for it. As now, with the completion of that 2nd quarter earlier, it's now 11 consecutive quarters that the Hawks have been held scoreless. As the offense has come to a screeching halt since the shocking loss, you can kind of say, at Palatine. A lot of folks who cover this mid-suburban league, on paper, you'd have to give the edge to Hoffman Estates going into that Week 7 game, but Palatine with the stunning victory at home, it was a shutout win. Not to say that Palatine can't hold their own, but they haven't had the greatest of seasons that we've been accustomed to seeing from Palatine, especially earlier in the decade. So now Routine will kick this one away from his own 40. You've got Mackay and Jay Sean back deep for Hoffman Estates, down by 4 touchdowns. Again, if Fremd wins, they'll try to improve their seeding going into playoff action next week. They've already clinched with the 6 wins as Jay Sean Johnson is stopped ahead of the 20-yard line on the stop. And coverage there was Josh Jorian, the 6-foot senior, and that's where the Hawks will take over ahead of their own 20. And if Hoffman Estates is to rally here and come back for a victory, they will become playoff eligible, not clinch a spot. It'll depend on how playoff points favor them and the other teams in the area, not just in the conference, but around the state, to try to make it to the playoffs and keep that streak of 3 consecutive years in the postseason alive. Well, for Fremd, they've clinched, as mentioned. The 6 wins is needed for a clinch spot in the playoffs, as the Vikings look to try to just get a higher seed in the 8A bracket. Lovelace will hand this off to Mackay Williams, who looks to get outside to the right, and he may have lost a yard on it, as it'll bring up 2nd down. Maybe got to the original line of scrimmage.
Mackay Williams brought down by Will Christo. No gain.
Looks like he may have actually lost a yard on it from what it looks like where the ball is spotted. I know the scoreboard may show it. Now they change it. So a loss of 1 there by Williams as we approach 9 minutes to go here in the 3rd. So 3 wide receivers now to the left, as Lovelace will pump fake, and he is upended. As I'm not sure if the ball came out there. Fremd is trying to point to the official that they have it. And it's actually going to be an incomplete pass instead. So I'm going to say that Lovelace was trying to throw the ball when it came out, and he took an awkward tumble to the turf on top of it. To see he's okay, though. Either way, 3rd down and 11. Ball still at the 21, as Hoffman Estates is looking for any kind of answer offensively. Lovelace will try to run it, but is nowhere near the 1st down. He gains maybe 2 on the run. As in for the stop defensively was Chris Scaria, excuse me on the pronunciation. Scaria with the tackle. It was a 2-yard run, and the offense again going to stay out there on 4th down. Got to stay aggressive down by 4 touchdowns with your playoff hopes on the line, as rather Lovelace is going to take that not fake, but a rather step-back punt that isn't really a good one, and it goes out of bounds in their own territory, and the Fremd Vikings are going to start this at the Hoffman Estates 40-yard line. What can go wrong has gone wrong the last 2 weeks and a half, counting this one, in all phases for Hoffman Estates, who mentioned were unbeaten in their non-conference portion of the season. They had gone 4-0 before losing at home to Conant. And then that bounce-back win, a close one to Schaumburg, but ever since then, hasn't gone the Hawks' way ever since. As on 1st and 10 here at the 40, 2 wide receivers out right for Ryan Sachs, as Brian Hardy's going to get the handoff. And he falls to the 36-yard line for a 4-yard gain.
2nd and 6.
So as mentioned, a 4-yard gain. Fremd not really having to rush the ball here tempo-wise, as they're very comfortable with a 4-touchdown lead here in the 2nd half on their home turf. Blitz being shown as Ryan Sachs will keep it himself. He has a rushing touchdown of his own, and he falls forward to the 32 for a gain of 4. Makes it 3rd and short. As this The way that this game has gone, take away some of the passing attack and the way that Fremd has been able to chew up the clock and have long drives. It kind of reminds you of how we've seen Conant play with their style of offense and the times that we've seen them this year. And of course, their Cougars are led by their beast running back, Malik Frederick, who also has over 1,000 yards on the season rushing. As on 3rd and 2, Sachs will keep it. He's got the first down, finds a hole inside the 25 for yet another Vikings first down. An 8-yard run. Rather, I think they're going to actually give him 10 yards on it. So the ball's at the 22. So a 10-yard run there by the quarterback, Ryan Sachs, who we mentioned not afraid to run the ball either, as he came in with 528 rushing yards on his junior season, on top of the over 1,000 yards passing. As the toss now will go to Hardy. Looks for a hole, cuts back up. Flag is out as Hardy is stopped at the 25-yard line. Bryce Billingsley with the tackle. And a chop block is going to be called on the Vikings. Looked like they got that one on Andrew Sachs, brother of Ryan, who have connected twice tonight. So that chop block will negate the run by Hardy. As they'll now pick up the laundry on the field, and this is going to mark them back all the way to the 37-yard line off the chop block penalty. Now the refs will convene, I think, to perhaps where the ball should be spotted. One official at the 37-yard line in the middle of the two teams, and now they'll. Now looks like they're going to move the ball forward, and it's going to be at the 30. Have to see here, and now it's coming back to the original line of scrimmage now. As 4 refs now are convening about where the ball is going to be spotted. And now we're going to go back. So now the ball will indeed be at the 37 finally. Had the one official with the ball at the 37 the whole time, but not sure what the conference had to be about. But either way, the ball has now been spotted properly. So off the 15-yard penalty for the chop block. First and 25 now at the 37. Fremd will need to get all the way to the Hoffman Estates 12 to convert. Well, the way this Fremd offense has moved, they have the ability to do so as Hardy is stopped in the backfield for a loss. It was Nate Fisher getting the tackle for Hoffman Estates, and it'll bring up 2nd and long. Loss of 2 on the run by Hardy.
Loss of 2 yards, 2nd and 27.
Now under 5.5 to go. Second down, Ryan Sachs looking for Palmer. Just overthrown by a few feet, and it brings up 3rd down. And a penalty was out as well when the snap was taken. It was legal formation, and the penalty is going to be declined by the Hawks. So they'll just accept the loss of down because of that incompletion. It'll make it 3rd down and 27. Not be surprised if they go to the aerial attack and maybe look for number 1, Jack Hipchen. Play clock down to 4, and Fremd is going to call a timeout. So the Vikings call a timeout there, first of the half. They'll have 2 remaining. Since we have a moment now, we'll look to get you some more scores around the area. Glenbard West at the half has a 28-0 lead at Oak Park River Forest. Huntley on the road at Dundee Crown in the first half has a 28-0 lead. Willowbrook now has improved on their lead at home against Proviso East 16-0. Batavia going into the third quarter now has a 14-3 lead at home against the Wheaton North Falcons. Lake Park hosting St. Charles East has a 14-9 lead. That one's still at the half. Still at the half as well. Glenbard North 32-0 over Geneva. In the third quarter now, Carmel has taken the lead over St. Vida on Arlington Heights 21-14. Marmion Academy at home hosting Joliet Catholic and the Hilltoppers. Joliet Catholic on the road with a 35-0 lead as they begin the third quarter in that contest out at Marmion. Wheaton Warrenville South going into the third quarter has a 14-0 lead at home against St. Charles North. And we'll get some more scores as we go along. And now it looks like we've got time for one more. Prospect with the 49-14 victory. That's a quick ending out at Wheeling to be final already. As the Knights will get the W to end the regular season. And at the half at Palatine, they lead Conant, who we just talked about a moment ago, 13-0 as they begin the third quarter. Not that far from here at Fremd. So back to our action. 3rd and 27. It's going to be a screen to Hipchen, who is going to try to make some more moves, and he'll be brought down ahead of the 35. Darian waits on the tackle. And it'll bring up 4th down. Wind is very minimal. It would be a 49-yard attempt should the kicking unit come out, but the offense staying out there as Palmer now will come on into the game as Anthony Villano, one of the backup running backs, will head to the sideline. As now they get set with 7 on the play clock. Offense staying out there to go for this. As Ryan Sachs on 4th and 20 is going to be sacked. Never saw him coming. That being Justice Bamase. The 5'10 senior lineman coming out of nowhere to the blind side of Ryan Sachs, and a turnover on downs. An 8-yard sack, or rather a 5-yard sack, excuse me. Gives the Hawks the ball with 4:03 to go in the third. First turnover created by Hoffman Estates because of downage. So Lovelace and the Hawks offense out there. Still a lot of work to do with 4 minutes to go here in quarter number 3. As Lovelace steps up, he almost shoved his own lineman out of the way. This pass is shortly thrown, intercepted Jack Hipchen. They were looking for Jay Sean Johnson, that being Hoffman Estates. Hipchen making some moves ahead of the 50. Is going to try to reverse field. Skips around a couple more defenders. Play is still going. Hipchen ahead of the 25 to the 20. And he's taken out of bounds around the 15-yard line. Hipchen had a reception touchdown and an INT pick 6 last week. But there is a flag at the end of the play as Makai Williams is being pushed away by some of his teammates after the play had ended. So now all Hipchen would need to do is block an extra point, and he repeats the same performance as last week. Flag was thrown after the play had ended when Hipchen got taken out at around the 15-yard line. And it's going to be a personal foul on both teams, so they're going to be offsetting penalties. And I believe it is after the interception, so the Vikings will maintain the ball. So because of the penalty, it's going to be brought back to the 47-yard line of Fremd. So I believe the penalty, unless they're saying it occurred while the interception had just taken place, because there was a holding call that was called on Hoffman, or rather Fremd, I should say. So I think it may have been 10 yards from where the holding took place. Hence why we have the ball for Fremd on their own 47. Either way, still their ball after the interception as Ryan Sachs will keep it. Gets to the left, ahead of the 50, and ahead of the 45, close to the first down. It'll depend on whether he got out of bounds. He'll be just short of it.
Ryan Sachs carries the ball to the 44.5-yard line, second and short for the Vikes.
So it was a gain of 9 on that run from Ryan Sachs. Ball at Hoffman Estates territory at the Hawks 44. Blitz being shown. Ball is bobbled, and I think the Hawks recovered it, and they did. A bit of a miscue, the first one we've seen from this Fremd offense. So after the interception by Lovelace thrown, the defense will award him the ball back after the Fremd miscue. Looked like Elijah Figueroa was the one that fell on top of the ball for the recovery. Now the Hawks will now have control of the ball at their own 47. So Hoffman Estate's getting some breaks, just not able to capitalize on them and turn them into points. As they are under 3.5 minutes away of extending their scoreless streak to 12 consecutive quarters. On the run, it's Max Locke, mentioning his name for the first time tonight, gets a couple. We've seen Max Locke have some big nights, dating back to the heart of the regular season through the middle stages of it. We saw him have some big runs against Maine West and against Schaumburg in their 2 wins. We saw them at Hoffman Estates at Garber Stadium during the year. And on 2nd and 8, Locke's going to get the run again. And he gets outside the 50 in the Fremd territory for a short gain. And it'll bring up 3rd down. Zipchin with the push out defensively.
3rd and 6.
Hawks will need to get to the 43 of Fremd to continue this drive. Although you have to imagine even if they didn't get this conversion, they'll go for it on 4th as Lovelace gives it to Locke again, 3 straight plays, and he falls forward for maybe a yard. And it brings up 4th down.
Max Locke with a very short gain to the 47-yard
Offense staying out there, but again, we've seen that punt where Lovelace will take the extra 3 steps back and do like the drop back punt. No one back deep for Fremd should this occur, but with this 4th and 4, they're going to go for it. Lovelace can't find anybody. Running out of time, he throws out of bounds, incomplete. And a flag is out, though, back at the 49 on the Hoffman Estates side of the field. Fremd believes it's on the Hawks as their offense is already coming back out onto the field, and it is going to be a holding against Hoffman Estates. And that penalty is declined, so after creating the turnover on the fumble recovery by Elijah Figueroa, the Hawks turn it over on downs as the Vikings once again in control with just over 2 minutes to go in the 3rd. Two receivers set to each side. Ball at the left hash on the 47. There was some sort of happy birthday celebration going on by the student section of Fremd, as on the handoff, it's Palmer who gets to the 50. Not sure whose birthday it is out in the crowd, but a rather loud and boisterous celebration I could hear from our press box to the right. As it is all smiles around campus with the way this team has performed the last few weeks. And going into the playoffs, with as much momentum as possible, assuming this result holds. 2nd and 7. As now Andrew Sachs goes in motion. Hardy will get the handoff into Hawks territory, and he'll get to the 45. They'll bring up 3rd down. Looks like rather than 46 they'll mark him at. So a gain of 4. 3rd and short as we approach a minute to go in the 3rd. As with this clock ticking on down, assuming Hoffman doesn't turn anything into a score here in the next 50 seconds, they will now have gone 12 consecutive quarters without a single point. 3rd down and 3 is going to be a handoff to Andrew Sachs from his brother Ryan, the quarterback, and the Hawks were ready for that one. A loss back to the 50, a 4-yard loss, as Justice Bamasay with the tackle for loss on the 4-yard backwards play. And it looks like with the game clock ahead of the play clock, Fremd appears to be content to take this into the 4th quarter. So with that, you can now make it 12 consecutive quarters that the Hawks have been shut out in, which is kind of unreal to say based on how we've seen this team perform throughout the season. As our only 3rd quarter score came from the brothers Ryan Sachs to Andrew on a 35-yard connection earlier in the quarter to put us at our 28-0 lead for the host Vikings of Fremd. And as they get set to switch sides of the field for the 4th quarter, get an update on some scores around the area. Buffalo Grove has come back. I mentioned Elk Grove had the lead at the half earlier. They now have a 13-10 lead going into the 4th over Elk Grove. Some other scores going around the area. Jacobs at home trailing to Crystal Lake Central in the 3rd quarter, 21-10. Prairie Ridge hosting Crystal Lake South has a 41-22 lead in the 3rd. Some more updates as we go along here in this 4th quarter. Right now also Glenbard North adds on to their lead against Geneva at home, 38-0. So 4th down and 7, punting unit out for Fremd as Jay Sean Johnson is back deep. A bit of a mishandle there. It's Jack Hipchen. He's gonna get ahead of the line of scrimmage and kind of have to collectively hold your breath there because he took a hard hit, lowering the shoulder. Everybody appears to get up okay, though. So the Hawks will take over at their own 47-yard line. Right out of the 46. So as the Hawks still in their huddle offensively, Fremd's defense already out on the field. Now the Hawks will come out. Not the way that senior quarterback JoJo Lovelace intended on having his high school career perhaps come to an end. And now we've got a whistle and a Hoffman Estates timeout. And that is not going to make Tim Heisey perhaps happy because he had all the time to talk about what you wanted to go over to begin this drive, and you get out there and you have to redo it again as they took maybe 3 seconds in their timeout huddle, and now we're back out on the field ready to go. So they're already all set, ready to go, and Fremd just taking another moment just to take a breather, and now they'll come back out onto the field. So now the drive will start for Fremd at the 47 as we come in off the Hoffman timeout. Now each team with 2 timeouts here remaining in regulation. As Lovelace will quickly throw to the left for Williams, who looks for some blockers ahead of the 50. It'll bring up 2nd down as he was pushed out of bounds.
Pushed out of bounds at the 50-yard line.
It was Chris Scaria who pushed Johnson out of bounds.
Holding on the Hawks.
And there was a flag, and it's going to be holding on Hoffman Estates. So negate that catch and run. It's going to now bring Hoffman Estates back to 1st and 16. They'll spot the ball back at the 41. Some more work to be done yet again. His 3 wide receivers are now set to the right. Lovelace will throw over the middle on the slant. It's Johnson. He's got a first down and more into Vikings territory. Puts on the brakes in a spin move ahead of the 30-yard line.
Lovelace's pass is complete to Jay-Sean Johnson, who gets out of bounds.
So Johnson with the nice catch and run. He gets it again and goes forward with it.
The 26-yard line, 1st and 10 for the Hawks.
That was a gain of 35 from Lovelace to Johnson. Same formation again. Lovelace, pump fakes, end zone, jump ball. It is intercepted in the end zone. That was Archie Cox, the sophomore linebacker. And great one-on-one coverage. Actually, I want to correct myself on the interception. That was Nate Stevens on the interception. Nate Stevens, the senior on senior night, getting in on the action. It's a 3rd interception thrown also by Lovelace. Now the Fremd Vikings take over with that touchback interception. They'll start on their own 20. Andrew Saxon in motion to the slot on the near side as Hardy will get the run to the right. And it's a minimal gain at best for 2nd down. So no gain on that run there from the running back, Brian Hardy. A couple of line mates switch around on the Hoffman Estate side of things as Ryan Sachs will throw. Passes almost overthrown, but it's caught at the 35-yard line. Greg Harmon, go up and get it, young fella, for a first down. It was a 16-yard completion to the 36. Harmon going to stay out there. That's his, I believe, his 2nd catch tonight. Same formation again as 3 wide receivers are set to the near left. Play clock down to 4. As the blitz is coming in, Hardy will get the run to the left side. Brian Hardy head of the 45, gets a first down at midfield. The Vikings are just chugging along as they get into Hoffman Estates territory. It was a run of 16 yards, and a timeout's been called, and Hoffman Estates will call another timeout. They've got 1 remaining, while the Vikings still have 2 of theirs. And since we have another timeout, get an update on some more scores happening around the area. It's now a running clock at Oak Park River Forest as Glenbard West on the road has a 42-0 lead in the 3rd quarter. In the 3rd quarter, Hinsdale Central leads Lyons Township 21-0. Willowbrook now will have a running clock as at home they host Proviso East and it's 44-0. In the 4th quarter at Lake Park, they trail St. Charles East 23-14. And some other scores we can update you on. As it's a tight one at Wheaton Academy hosting Aurora Christian. Wheaton Academy with a 21-20 lead as they're getting ready for the 4th quarter. It's gone final at Buffalo Grove. A valiant effort by the Grenadiers in that one, but Buffalo Grove comes away with the field goal victory 20-17. And in the second half, Barrington has a 24-7 lead hosting Schaumburg. Palatine in the third quarter ahead over Conant, 20-7. I mentioned with the Barrington score, if Barrington wins, they will clinch a playoff spot. 6 wins clinches a spot. 5 gets you playoff eligible, as we've talked about. As Ryan Sachs on the keep here will slide right at the 35-yard line for another Vikings first down. A 12-yard run by the junior quarterback. Some of the Hoffman fans have headed for the exits, as they perhaps are starting to realize a playoff season is in jeopardy. As assuming this result holds, they will have lost their final 3 games of the season and be outscored 77-0 in their final 3 weeks, unless the score is to change here with 9:46 to go. As this is a bobbled connection looking for Brian Hardy on the run. Ryan Sachs slams the turf in frustration. It'll be a loss of 5 on the miscue by Ryan Sachs. Lining up as a receiver to the right for Fremd is Connor McCarthy. 3 wide receivers to the near left side. You've got Harmon along with Palmer and Andrew Sachs. As the blitz comes in, Ryan Sachs will take the run to the right side. He'll get a positive gain out of it, and he gets taken out of bounds to the 35-yard line. So that 5 yards rather comes back after that miscued handoff to Brian Hardy on the last play. So still 3rd down and a little long to go. We now have under 9 minutes to go here in the game. Jack Hipchen currently on the sidelines. Stacked receivers at first, now they disperse. 3rd and 11, Ryan Sachs looking for Palmer. It is picked off. Devin Lawrence with the takeaway ahead of the 35. He gets taken down. And that's the first interception thrown by Ryan Sachs tonight. So a rather defensive battle here towards the latter end of that 3rd quarter and starting this 4th, with both teams coming away with some respective takeaways. As now the Hawks will have the ball on their own 36 with 8:49 to go. So 1st down and 10. 2 backs in the backfield with JoJo Lovelace. As the handoff is going to go to Max Locke. We saw him on the last drive get 3 consecutive runs. He scampers off a couple defenders for a 1st down. Nice 10-yard run there by the 6-foot senior running back, Max Locke. They'll put him at the 48 officially, so a run of 12 on that play there for Max Locke. And now we have looks like an injured Hawk, and that is Mekhi Williams, who is slow to get up at his own 41-yard line. Clock is stopped at 8:40. So Williams still down. And since we have a moment, we'll try to update you on some more scores happening around, as now Williams will be able to walk off on his own power. St. Francis, we mentioned the Spartans hosting Aurora Central Catholic. They lead in the 3rd quarter 26-0. Montini now starting to pull away from Providence Catholic in the 4th quarter, 35-14. Wheaton Warrenville South has a 3-touchdown lead in the 2nd half, hosting St. Charles North 21-0. And Streeter has started to come back in it against Lyle, but they're still trailing 55-14 in the second half. As the run there for Max Locke is a short gain of a yard to bring up second down. And in the second half, it's also a running clock in Lake Zurich, hosting Waukegan 50-0 for the Bulldogs out there. As on 2nd and 8, Lovelace over the middle, intercepted. He wanted Pekarchik, but he finds a Vikings defender instead. Nathan Patel, the senior cornerback, and that is the 4th interception thrown by Lovelace. So 4 interceptions by this Vikings defense, who has just been all over the football here tonight. As we have just over 8 minutes to go, as they look to forge on and extend this winning streak to 6, heading into playoff action next weekend, when they'll be determined whether they may be hosting early on and what seed they will be going into the 8A bracket. Man in motion, it's Palmer, and he's met in the backfield for a loss. Elijah Figueroa on the tackle. So Figueroa with the nice stop, as that's a loss of 4 to make it 2nd and 14. And you know Fremd isn't going to be in any much of a hurry here, up by 4 touchdowns, as we'll talk about each team's season and who they played and what the result was as we start to wrap up here. And we'll start with Hoffman Estates in a moment, as on 2nd and 14, Andrew Sachs goes in motion. His brother Ryan, he wanted to throw it to him, but the throw was behind Andrew, incomplete, as it brings up 3rd down. Mentioned for Hoffman Estates, the 4-4 record, 1-3 in conference play. It started off with an impressive cross-conference showdown against Elk Grove at home, winning 40-16 in week 1. And in a shootout that went down to the final drive, they lost at Prospect 35-27 in week 2 to drop them to 1-1. And then the back-to-back wins against Maine West and Vernon Hills to finish non-conference play in weeks 3 and 4. They beat Maine West 14-7 and lost at Vernon Hills 34-12. And then we'll talk about their conference results in a moment. As on 3rd down and 14, Ryan Sachs will run it himself to the left side. And he gets a few yards out of it before he's taken down. And then they'll bring up 4th down. And then when conference play began for Hoffman Estates, they lost at home to Kona in the conference opener 31-6 in week 5. And then we had that game when they hosted Schaumburg. It was a tight battle that the Saxons just would not quit, as it came down to one of the final onside kickoff attempts, in which the Hawks won 21-16 to put them to 4-2. And then the last couple of weeks have been nothing for Hoffman Estates, losing at Palatine week 7, 21-0. And then last week we saw them hosting Barrington and losing 28-0. And that same result against Barrington is holding up right now here at Fremd. 4th and 5, Fremd is going to punt, as Jay-Sean Johnson was back deep, and it'll take a Vikings bounce inside the Hoffman Estates 15, and they'll down it at the 13. So as now the Fremd Vikings will come out. Their season started off with a nice home win against Lake Zurich, 24-6. And then back-to-back non-conference losses that dropped them to 1-2. They lost at Hershey 35-14. And in hosting Maine South in the first of 2 MSL-CSL crossover games that they had, Maine South with the impressive road win here, 35-21. And then in week 4, they went to Evanston and got the 19-15 victory in week 4. And then they have been unbeaten in conference play since we've talked about it. It's been 5 straight overall, 4 here in conference play, a shutout win at Schaumburg, a 28-10 win at home against Palatine, a shutout victory here against Barrington 14-0, and then a road victory last week at Conant, 20-12. As the first down play here is a run by Max Locke for about a yard. That's how the 2 team seasons have collided here to week 9. As it'll be 2nd down, and looks like they'll give him 2 yards on that for 2nd and 8. As this Hoffman Estates team coming into 2019 had a lot of high expectations off the last couple years they have rattled off. As Makai Williams on the run here is going to get out to the outside for a first down ahead of the 25. And that'll move the chains for Hoffman Estates. You've seen Hoffman Estates about 3-4 times this year, and it's been quite the 180 based on how we saw them earlier on in the season. And of course, this is our first look at Fremd, and we've known about their running game with Brian Hardy and the weapons they have on the outside, especially with Ryan Sachs' brother Andrew and Jack Hipchen, who coming into play tonight for Andrew Sachs had only had 245 receiving yards, but he's done a lot more than just be the main receiver, one of the main receivers for the Vikings, as Williams to the left side gets the handoff for a few on the run. And this Vikings defense, which you mentioned Jack Hipchen playing on the defensive side, Chris Scaria, Jason Haas, Trey Costella, Jack Walsh, Will Christo have been some of the big leaders for this Vikings defense this year. And that is what will propel them with under 5 minutes to go to improve to 7-2 for the 2019 season and improve their seeding spot in the 8A playoffs, as Max Locke gets the second down run, and that should be enough for a first down, and it will be. While assuming Hoffman Estates is not able to score here in the final 4:40, they will have ended the season with a baker's dozen of scoreless quarters to end 2019, as it is going to end in disappointing fashion for Hoffman Estates, as Locke gets a nice run towards midfield for a first down. But it looks like it'll be too little too late, as now there's an injury in the backfield, and the training staff already out there. Clock has stopped, injury timeout. Looked like it was one of the offensive linemen on the left side.
The Fremd Music Association and the Murder Mystery Company will be dishing up.
So as they attend to the injured Hawk, we'll see if we can find some more scores happening that could be close to finals at this point. Up north at Warren, they get the shutout win at home, 42-0 over Mundelein. North Chicago holds on for a tight 13-9 victory on the road at Antioch. It's a final at Burlington Central, as Cary Grove and the Trojans get the road win 42-14. Still 38-0 Glenbar North, as that one now has gone into the fourth quarter. It's a final at Marmion Academy, as Joliet Catholic gets the 49-7 win. Glenbrook North at home gets the shutout win against Niles West 44-0. And the update on the injured Hawk, that was Miguel Benilla, the 5'10 junior lineman that's being helped off. It's gone final now at Lyles. They win 55-14 over Streeter. Downstate, Wilmington wins over Piatone 24-0. As now we get back to our game. There's a gain of 12 on that run there by Max Locke. As Lovelace going to air it downfield, looking for Johnson. It's tipped and it's incomplete. Almost getting the interception was Ethan Herman, the senior linebacker, back in coverage. As some of the student section has even decided to empty out here on the Fremd side of things, as they perhaps made an early exit. Temperatures are dipping here in the area, as of course we're in the heart of the fall season. Only about 38 degrees right now, but no wind to really report of tonight, as Locke gets no gain on this run for third down. I want to thank all of our great crew behind the scenes, Steve and Rick, with the excellent production here at the games and behind the scenes. Of course, without their hard work, there's no me. A great shout out to those fine gentlemen that put in the great work behind the scenes when you see our games that are posted up during the week. Hard to believe that the regular season is going to come to an end in just over 3 minutes here at Fremd. It feels only like a couple weeks ago we just started the first week of the season, as Mekhi Williams will cut back up the middle into Viking territory. Not going to be enough for a first down, as the clock will still run.
Short of a first down.
Yeah, we'll start to venture into basketball mode in the coming month.
The ball is spotted at the 46-yard line of the Vikings. 4th and 3.
So it'll be a 4th and 3 off the 7-yard run. And for Hoffman Estates, it's going to end in disappointing fashion. It'll be an under 500 season after making the playoffs for the last couple of seasons. And a timeout on 4th down charge to Fremd. While for Fremd, we mentioned it's their first conference outright title in 10 years. You have to go back to 2009, in which that was the last time it happened. And in a conference that has the likes of Barrington and Palatine over this last decade that have battled for the conference title, Hoffman Estates and Conant over the last couple of seasons, such a competitive division in the Mid-Suburban League West. And of course, you got the likes of Rolling Meadows, who ran away with the East to start off the season. As it's been talked about over the last few years that the West has always been better than the East, but can't really say that here in 2019, as it is pretty much even all across the board. And even for some of the teams lower in the division, even on the East side, you can't forget about the Elk Grove running back in Ian Ridge, who is quite a stud. As on 4th down, Locke will get the run. Can he get the edge? No, and it'll be a turnover on downs. Ball came out late, but I think he was down. Either way, it's going to be Fremd football with 2.5 to go. As it looked like Max Locke got rolled up, as some of his teammates are calling for the medical staff, but he got up on his own, and he'll appear to walk off on his own. As for the Vikings, in 2:30, they'll be celebrating an unbeaten conference mark, 5 wins, no losses in the Mid-Suburban League West Division, 7-2 overall on the year. Capping off 6 straight wins to end the year, and carrying a lot of momentum heading into postseason play. And the selection process takes place over the weekend, and week 1 of the playoffs, the first round, begins next Friday. And once quarterfinal plays begin, everything will translate into Saturday afternoon contests, the remainder of the playoffs until the state final down at Champaign. As on the end around, as some of the second and third team guys are going to get some time here for the Vikings. Peter Mensa on the end around, the senior wide receiver. Some of the seniors that may not get a lot of the normal playing time that the others do are going to get some action here. You've got, playing quarterback, you've got, I believe that is Andrew Sachs, the brother of Ryan, playing quarterback. So he's now taking snaps under center. Not listed as a quarterback under the roster, but I'm sure he's probably learned a lot from his brother Ryan playing quarterback. There's a gain of 7 there off that run by Peter Mensa. As man comes in motion, and it'll be an end around from right to left, as Mensa is going to cut back up the middle ahead of the 50 and get back to the line for minimal gain and a 3rd down.
Peter Mensa, no gain, 3rd and 3.
So a 3rd down and 3. As it looks like they'll try to take this down to as much clock as possible and wind down 2019 with a shutout victory. We mentioned the last 3 weeks for Hoffman Estates, they, assuming this result holds for the final minute, they will have been shut out in their last 3 contests, losing by the score of 77-0. As now a timeout has been called as the play clock was winding down. Fremd will take it. Again, though, regardless, another great season of Mid-Suburban League football action we've had for you here on HETV. As we'll look to get around some final scores, perhaps around the area. Barrington still has the lead against Schaumburg at home. Mention if Barrington wins, they automatically clinch a spot. And Palatine had the lead in the second half against Conant, 20-7. And a battle of unbeatens out at Oswego against Minooka and Oswego. Minooka trailing in the second half, 13-7. It's a final at Plainfield North as Yorkville gets the 31-7 win. In the Battle of the Downers Grove, South versus North. North victorious at South, 14-7. So 3rd down and 3. As the Fremd Vikings will try to advance this and hope to try to get a new set of downs to just go into victory celebration. Ball is fumbled, though, at midfield. It is picked up by Fremd, I believe, as it's a loss either way, and it brings up 4th down, and head coach Lou Sponzo gets the Gatorade bath. As the celebrations are starting to begin, it was Ryan Palmer that dumped the Gatorade tub on his head coach. As the final couple of seconds are going to tick on down. Play clock is ahead by about 3 seconds, so it'll just be a delayed knee that'll end our contest here tonight. Opponent to be determined for the Fremd Vikings along with their seed, and looks like one of their big senior linemen, Jack Gold, is going to get a snap as the Fremd sideline is pumped up about it. As they'll take the delay of game, and this way they can take the knee. As the We Are the Champions is starting to rain down here at Fremd High School to complete an unbeaten conference portion of the season. MSL West champions for the first time outright since 2009. 7-2 overall here in 2019. 6 straight wins to end the regular season. As this final second, Sachs is just going to throw it away, and it's a jump ball that is going to be an interception for Jay Sean Johnson. As Johnson is in a flag is going to be thrown, and that's something you don't want to see as he's taken out of bounds, and it's not going to matter in the end, but not a play that you want to see at the end of it for Hoffman Estates. But regardless, final score, Fremd 28, Hoffman Estates 0, as the Vikings advance to the playoffs with a 7-2 record, 5-0 in conference play, and the Hawks' season will end. No playoffs for them, 4-5 overall and 1-4 in conference play. Ryan Sachs with the opening drive touchdown run made it 7-0, and then he threw it to his brother Andrew for a 12-yard score in the second quarter to make it 14-0. Ryan Saxon added again to Jack Hipchen to make it 21-0 going into the half. And then the only score that came in this second half was in the third quarter. Ryan to Andrew Sachs yet again on a 35-yard connection, which made it 28-0. It's been a fun season here for covering football for HETV here in 2019. We'll hope to do it again for you in 2020. From all of us here at HETV, I'm Ryan Faze signing off. Once again, final score, Vikings 28, Hawks 0. Good night, everybody.